Hi, this is JD, and it's like deja vu. I'm in the green room again at WGN AM radio here on 435 North Michigan Avenue, and I'm here to do another Bill Moeller Weekend Show segment. Today, talking LinkedIn and specifically how baby boomers can utilize LinkedIn to generate entrepreneurial opportunities. Here we go.
This is our last hour on WGN Weekend. I'm Bill Moeller. Let's talk about social media. Some people just don't get it. And I don't think they'll ever will. They look at things like Facebook as a big playpen for a lot of silly conversation and interaction. Instead of getting on the phone to chat about television, girlfriends or boyfriends, they're doing it on the internet. But a lot of older folks think that it's of no use to them. What's the practical sense of doing that? Our reflex response is to just do that, pick up the phone. But it is true that savvy social media users are seeing these platforms as tools for things like what Jeff Carroll and I were just talking about, career advancement, for interaction for business purposes. And in particular, for those kinds of things, they're using one specific medium. That's LinkedIn, launched just about 9 or so years ago. It's got about 140 million members. I'm among them. And by the way, did you know that one of the original investors in LinkedIn was Bain Capital? That's right, Mitt Romney's Bain Capital. Let's talk with J.D. Gershbein. He's the CEO of Owlish Communications, and if you saw him, you would know that that's the logical name for his business because you kind of look like an owl. You are all about the creative, the useful, and profitable use of LinkedIn. And I think we're going to have, in a sense, a LinkedIn lesson this early afternoon on a Saturday in Chicago.
It really has come on, hasn't it? I mean, since the Wild IPO back in May of 2011, the awareness being paid to LinkedIn, especially by people in transition, the way that it has eclipsed Monster.com and CareerBuilder.com in the job market has been nothing short of extraordinary.
Now, what you're so good at, though, is for the expansive use of LinkedIn. I can do basic things. I've got my profile, and I think it says I have 100% of what I can do that I have done. But there are groups you can join. You can leverage it in ways that are creative. And, in fact, that is the business model around which Owlish Communications operates. Where are most of us coming up short in the practical application of LinkedIn?
A lot of the statistics on LinkedIn are a bit bloated because whereas we have 140 million users registered on the site, how many of them would you say are dedicated users?
Yeah,
I mean, people who are not dabbling. In other words, they're on it every day. They're tweaking their LinkedIn profile, which is the great tool in digital self-representation these days for business. They're trying to build robust communities by connecting with a few people here and there, but they're not really seeing the big picture on this as to how it can really help.
I'm a passive user myself. It's there, and if there's a little change in my career, I'll add that as an update, and that's a helpful way to keep track of other people as their career, as their titles change and their experience changes. But there's so much more you can do, and I think Jeff Carroll and I were talking about boomers. Many boomers find themselves as the ones now out of work and having the hardest time getting back in. And you're saying this is a real tool that they can use for their advantage in that area.
I speak about baby boomers, LinkedIn, and the new entrepreneurialism because I come across in my practice day to day many 50 and 60-somethings who are really ready to learn LinkedIn. And we're not talking about people who have bounced around, Bill. We're talking about people who have had solid careers for 20, 30 years who all of a sudden find themselves out in the job mix, and they're tasked with learning how to network. And in my case, I teach them how to socially network and really show them the ways that LinkedIn can be leveraged to advance whatever initiative it is, whether it's getting back into the corporate world or if it's becoming entrepreneurial and seeking out enterprise partners or connecting with people who can literally advance them in whatever goal they're trying to achieve.
JB, why don't you just give us a couple of thumbnail tips? What are the kinds of the basic things we should be doing that maybe we're not thinking about doing to best present ourselves out there in the marketplace?
One of the big trapdoors on LinkedIn these days is just creating an account and hustling up some content. And I cut my teeth in the social business marketplace by showing people how to represent well, and by keywording a LinkedIn profile, by specifically targeting objectives, creating some value for others, and really creating client-centered content, what you can do for others, present tense,
and how about what you
tense.
have done?
Well, spotlighting accomplishments, but then you get into a little bit more resume speak. It's the what have you done for me lately concept. And if you're going the corporate route, if you're looking for work to dovetail a resume, companies want to know what you can do for them now, not what you've done.
What's your view on the number of recommendations is optimal? Some people have a couple, some have zillions.
Good question, and I shoot for quality recommendations. I always tell people that the name and the company of the person who is endorsing them goes on their LinkedIn profile. It becomes part of their content. So there is a certain quality about who is recommending you, whether they can string a few sentences together, and whether they're really recommending you. So quantity as opposed to quality. I used to think maybe one recommendation for each 10 connections. So people by now who have been on LinkedIn 3-4 years, who have built up that 500-plus level of connections, having 20, 25 recommendations, I think, is a nice number. And from that, you can get a pretty fair sampling as to a person's capability.
Jay, do you recommend that people consider the paid service on LinkedIn as opposed to the free that most of us are using?
I absolutely think they should consider it, Bill. A couple reasons. But I will preface by saying that most people can accomplish everything that they want to on LinkedIn without paying a dime. But like a lot of technology, you have to pay to play. So if you really want to leverage this thing and really see what it can do, that's a paid subscription, and they have subscription levels that are very affordable to people, but for the bang for your buck, you walk away with the ability to do so much more on the site.
Yeah, I had at one point around 1,000 contacts, and I cut that way back. But what I do, I send out show notices for this particular program we're on right now every week, and I go through, and I'm only limited to 50, but I'll do that. I'll send groups of 50 over and over and over, and it's a pain in the neck. My thumb starts hurting.
Well, that's LinkedIn's stance on anti-spamming.
Yeah.
They want to make it more difficult for you to get the word out.
They make you work for it.
Absolutely.
Now, if I had a paid subscription, would they let me send them a one notice to all contacts?
No, just 50.
Okay.
I have a wish list of things I'd love to see on LinkedIn as well, but right now, the way the platform is expanding and the way they're creating this very rich user experience, the goal is to learn the site, to navigate the site. So as LinkedIn introduces these features, we become more acclimated to them. We've assimilated enough into LinkedIn culture where whatever change comes down the pike, and I don't hear of it before anyone else, I see it at the same time, it just kind of dovetails what we're doing, and we just integrate it.
Well, the assumption is there's probably a lot more we can be doing to better using this platform to advance our own interests. And how can people get in touch with JD at Owlish?
Well, gee, if only I had a website.
And that address is?
Well, I can be reached at www.owlishcommunications.com, and that's OWLISH. I'm also searchable on LinkedIn by my initials, J and D, and last name is Gershbein, Gershbein, and anybody has any questions regarding LinkedIn, how to leverage it, how to monetize it, I would be happy to continue the conversation with them.
JD, thanks for conversing with us today on WGN.
Anytime, Bill. Thanks for having me.